Today, I wanted to share something a little strange that happened on my way home from one of the most joyful trips I've had in a long time. I had just been to Cardiff Violins, an incredible experience, and I picked out a new viola. Honestly, it was one of those magical musical moments. That story deserves its own video. But the journey home with EasyJet left me a little confused, mildly frustrated, and wondering, is this something other musicians have experienced too? Or was it just a weird one off travel hiccup, someone having a bad day? Whatever it was, it got me thinking. So here's the deal. Like I've done many times before, I booked two seats to fly home, one for me and one for my instrument. Sometimes that instrument is a guitar. This time it was my new viola, lighter, smaller, and very well behaved. If you've ever traveled with an instrument, you'll know once it's out of your eye line, it's at risk. I've checked instruments before and the cases have come back damaged. Luckily, the instruments have never been harmed themselves, but that was enough to convince me I just can't trust that system checking in an instrument. Other musicians do it. They get their expensive flight cases, air tags, all sorts, but I'm just too nervous, especially with something as fragile as a viola or acoustic guitar. Maybe electric guitar is a little bit more resilient. Anyway, I digress. Over the years, I've learned the safest, most respectful way to fly is to book an extra seat. No fighting for overhead space, no begging at the gate, just book the seat, strap it in, and relax. Or at least that's what I thought I was doing. I've flown with EasyJet many times. I've booked extra seats for my guitar, and it's always been smooth. No one's ever questioned where I put my bags or how I arrange things within those two seats. It's just worked. So I assumed, perhaps too confidently, that this time would be no different. I had my camera and laptop bag, as usual. I had a small rucksack with weekend clothes that I planned to place also under the other seat in front of the viola. After all, I'd paid for those two seats, two under-seat spaces. The viola doesn't have little leggies, it's not using the footwell, so surely the under-seat space is part of the deal, right? Apparently not. At the gate, EasyJet staff told me that only human passengers are allowed an under-seat bag, even if you've bought the seat. If there was a person in it, you'd be entitled to that space. If there isn't, you're not entitled to it. So technically, I was breaking the rules. Two small under-seat bags and a viola strapped in. Even though none of it was in the overhead bin, nothing was oversized or heavy, I was told to pay £48. Even the manager said, yeah, this is a bit stupid, you should bring it up with EasyJet. And instead of wasting time and energy trying to get through to someone on a call centre line, I thought, I'll just make a video. And yes, before you ask, my viola had a boarding pass, its name, Mr. Musical Instrument. It had a window seat, but apparently no under-seat bag privileges. This isn't really a rant, it's a question. Has this happened to you? I flew 21 return flights with EasyJet last year, probably 80% of them with an extra seat. At a rough average cost of £100 per seat, that's a lot of money. And adding £48 every time I travel with an extra little bag, that builds up quickly. I genuinely don't think I'm being a brat about this. It feels like something I should be entitled to. I've paid for the other seat. So is this just EasyJet's policy, or do other airlines do the same thing? You buy the seat, but you're not entitled to the space the seat provides for a normal human. You have to pay extra, but not for overhead, for underseat. And the overhead isn't much better. Sometimes it's full, sometimes they just say no. Even when the instrument fits and you've paid for it, they'll insist you check it, which for many musicians is terrifying. I've been doing this for a while. I've been flying with instruments for 17 years, and I've learned all the tricks. I've asked at the gate, I've checked dimensions, I've played the polite game, the proactive game, all of it. Eventually, I just stopped risking it. I started doing the right thing, paying more, booking properly, buying the extra seat, and still, I'm being charged extra for space I've already paid for, £48. £48 times 21 return flights. That's a lot of extra money for space I've already bought. It just feels off, and the solution isn't clear. I have to buy the seat because the overhead bin is a gamble, and overhead bins seem to be getting smaller. They're barely built for cabin luggage, let alone instruments. Seats, on the other hand, are built for humans, which ironically makes them perfect for instruments. I rewatched my dear friend Adam Neely's video about this topic. He talks about the chaos of flying with instruments and calls it the Wild West. And he's right. Even in the US, where a law was signed protecting musicians' rights to carry instruments on board, gate agents don't know about it, policies contradict each other, staff aren't trained, and musicians end up improvising, pleading, or worse, losing or having their instruments damaged. Adam also makes an important point. Live music is a $31 billion industry, and yet no consistent policies, no reliable procedures, no guarantees that our tools will arrive with us. Now, I know this is slightly different. This isn't about being denied boarding or having an instrument damaged, but it is about being a musician, doing the right thing and still being charged more. And I've been a pretty loyal EasyJet customer. As I said, 21 return flights, that's 42 flights, and up until now, not once had I ever heard of this rule. So why now? Was it because the flight was empty? Were they trying to recoup costs? And if the flight had been full, would they have let it slide like they have before? I don't know, but I do know that £48 might not sound like a big deal. And right now, I can take the hit. But for younger musicians or someone just starting out, that could be the difference between saying yes or no to a gig. And that's what really frustrates me. Because who else is booking extra seats for non-human passengers and paying full price for said seat? Musicians, videographers, photographers, art handlers, tech professionals, theatre companies with props. I mean, it's a short list, but it feels like musicians are probably the most consistent group. So when a policy like this is enforced inconsistently and seems to only affect us, it feels like we're being targeted, even if unintentionally. And one last thing, I wasn't allowed to board until everyone else had boarded because they were telling me to wait for the manager, and that was right at the very end. So although I'd made myself known and I'd booked the extra seat at full price, I was ready, but they made me wait alone at the gate until the very end. It just felt unnecessarily awkward. So I'd really love to hear from you. How do you travel with instruments? Have you had to fight to keep them on board? Do you have any tips, workarounds, or horror stories? Do you work at EasyJet? And are you in a position to help me change this policy? Because honestly, I'm not trying to shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to show how silly this rule really is. And maybe we can turn this into something useful, a shared resource, a guidebook for musicians trying to navigate the weird, inconsistent world of air travel. Because honestly, we do deserve better than this. Thanks for listening. And EasyJet, if you're watching, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Okay, back to normal musical content very, very soon. But ciao for now.